Okay, today we're going to be chatting about the Li-Ning Feidian Challenger 5, which is a carbon-plated speed trainer, borderline racing shoe from the Chinese brand. I've had a lot of requests to review this one because of its abundance on websites like AliExpress, Taobao, Shein as well. It's also going to be coming to Running Warehouse Australia later this year. So I did want to get some thoughts out and let you know whether you should pick this up because it is very tempting at a low price point with some impressive technologies. So here's some full thoughts. I've done about 70 Ks of running in this shoe now, including a 38K long run before my marathon in Osaka, speed training workouts, daily training workouts. Very keen to give you my full rundown. As always, we'll start with some specs. I haven't got official stack height measurements on this shoe, but in my men's size US 10.5, I would speculate we have around 40 mil of foam in the heel, maybe a little bit less. So I'm going to say sample size, we're probably looking at around 34 to 36 mil of foam in the heel with what feels like an 8mm drop. It doesn't have that kind of meaty feel up front that you get from a 4 to 6mm drop. It does have a little bit of pitching to it. I think it feels pretty standard. In terms of the setup that we have here, we have a premium feeling double layer PEBA midsole with a new, softer, unpelletized PEBA, which some people have speculated as being nitrogen infused. Wouldn't be surprised, but it does feel like a kind of light strikey pro kind of compound, a little bit more dense and resilient, but with a good squish in. I am pretty confident it is PEBA though. It is still called their Boom technology. And then on the bottom layer, we have their old version of Boom Tech, which is a pelletized foam, is a little bit firmer, a little bit more resilient. Carbon plate embedded between that, which has a decent level of flexibility, not the softest or most pliable carbon plate out there, but definitely enough flex that you can kind of get through some slower paces without it feeling too clunky or too aggressive. In terms of the weight, with that double layer of PEBA foam, slightly lower stack height, and a stripped down upper, we're coming in at 220 grams in my men's size 10.5, which means that it's racing weight, although it is a little bit lower in stack. So very competitive in terms of the weight department, very competitive in terms of that double layer PEBA setup. Starting off with the upper of this shoe, it is a very stripped down, comfortable affair here. We've got a good level of padding in and around the heel counter with a tiny bit of structure coming mainly from this strip of firmer material on the back. It's comfortable, locks down very easily despite how flexible and kind of pliable the material is. It's extremely breathable. As you can see, you can pretty much see right through it. Gusseted tongue, which is a nice detail. A little bit of padding in the tongue as well with these soft laces which wrap over the top of the foot really nicely. And another detail that I really enjoy is how tightly the laces snake through the eyelet chain. So you can adjust the laces after you've tied up the shoe and they stay put. It's a very easy shoe to lock in and dial in. Really enjoyed the lockdown of the shoe so far. In terms of the fit and sizing, I would suggest that this fits more true to size with Western brands, maybe a smidge short. So I've gone for a size 10.5, which has been true to size for me, for most Western brands in the Endorphin Speed, the Magic Speed, the Hokamark X2, all of the other Western speed trainers have fit me as a size 10.5, whereas other Chinese brands I've often had to go the half size down to a size 10 as someone who floats between half sizes. Here though, I would go true to size. If you float between half sizes, I would go the half size up just to give yourself a little bit more clearance through the toe box. I don't think this is necessarily a wide foot friendly shoe. I do think it fits like a standard speed trainer, maybe a little bit of tapering on that outside edge through the pinky, but giving yourself that half size up should eliminate all problems there. If you're a wide footer, probably not the one to jump into, but standard feet with nothing crazy going on in the toe box, I think this is going to accommodate most people out there right now. As long as you're not getting up into those massive sizes, I do think they only go to a size 12. Last time I checked. It's simple, it's stripped down, it locks down very easily. I'm pretty happy with this upper. It's saving weight while still being comfortable. Pretty much perfect in my opinion. Moving down to the midsole, we have this absolute treat of a setup with a double layer PEBA midsole and a carbon plate embedded. This is a fun, fast, dynamic speed trainer which is built to run fast, but can also accommodate some slower training paces with the sink in and the simple geometry of the carbon plate. This top layer of foam is fantastic. It has a good level of response, but also a nice kind of dense, comfortable, structured feel if you settle back into it, which transitions very nicely through those daily training paces. The carbon plate, I do think, is a little bit stiffer than what you're going to find in shoes like the Deviate Nitro 3, which is a little bit more pliable, a little bit more kind of flexible and more adaptable to easier paces. This is definitely a little bit more aggressive than that, but it still never really felt harsh on those easier runs because of the compression that you get from that top layer of PEBA foam. This is fast, it's fun. This is one I actually felt like I could use for faster running as well, which I keep on bringing up in a lot of these reviews. I think a lot of modern day speed shoes are kind of getting a bit too big and clunky and soft and squishy. You're thinking about the SC Trainer 3, the Magic Speed 4, which is just a big block of EVA foam. They're not really built to run fast. So this, to me, is that perfect shoe which you can actually use for your session, your 1 and 2K repeats, your thresholds, getting into tempo runs, but you can also keep it on for the warm up and cool down as well and still feel pretty comfortable. With the weight of 220 grams as well, this could definitely function as a first time racing shoe for a lot of people, an introduction into the carbon plated world for a lower price point with all the premium materials and also with a little bit of a lower stack and maybe a little bit more stability as well. It's not a super stable shoe, mind you, like we do still get a little bit of tapering in around the heels, but I do think we have a good deal of midsole sidewalls. I do think the foam isn't overly soft or overly compressive. I think it should be okay as that kind of introduction transition into full-blown super shoes. This is probably the best speed trainer on the market right now, a shoe which can actually run fast, can actually handle your higher paces, but then can also be used for its daily training, warm up and cool down, longer runs as well. It can actually handle those paces well. It's probably the most versatile out there, probably the best value with the best setup. It's really, really fantastic. I'll get into a couple of comparisons at the end of the video, but right now for me, this is sitting atop of the pile for one of the lowest price points. Really encourage you to check it out if you haven't been fussed by some of the other modern day speed trainers. Moving down to the outsole, we have a CPU rubber here, full coverage, nearly, maybe a little channel there, but we have full contact on the ground with a pretty decent tread. I found the grip to be good. The rubber itself is quite sticky. I would note though that I have seen some early wear on the outside edge of this shoe, which happened in the first run as a supinator, landing quite hard on that outside edge. It has worn down a little bit quicker, but I would say that once it kind of got through that initial wear and got down to the kind of base layer of rubber, it has slowed down a lot and I haven't seen anything crazy since then. So I'm not persuaded that the durability is going to be exceptional. I do think if you particularly focus on landing in particular spots, you might get through a little bit quicker. And for the price point as well, I'm not going to hold it against it. So grip is good. The durability I think is going to be okay once you get through that kind of initial roughing and wearing down of the more textured parts of the outsole. But yeah, overall, decent enough so far. Coming around to the price point here in Australia, we have access to this shoe for as low as $130 to $150 off AliExpress and Shein, and even less if you're game to go on Taobao and hunt around for this shoe. That is insane value. I think it will be coming in for $200 at Running Warehouse when it does release there, but even then that is still insane value. That's undercutting the Western brands by a good $100 to $150 when you get to shoes like the Mark X2 and some of those other high price point speed trainers. Insane value for the setup that you're getting. Double PEBA foam, carbon plate, stripped down upper. It's almost raceable. This is a truly fantastic value option for a speed trainer, borderline race shoe. Probably one of the best examples I can give of Chinese brands innovating and putting better technologies into their models, being more liberal with PEBA foams and carbon plates and stripping down the uppers, where Western brands are getting pretty complacent and leaving us with blocks of EVA foam with a little bit of super foam, kind of sprinkling it in around the place, whereas Chinese brands are getting straight to the point and giving the people what they want. Getting into a couple of comparisons, this is where things do get interesting. Comparing it to a couple of Western brands, I think the closest comparison for myself is the Cloudboom Zone, because these are both shoes or speed trainers which I actually want to run fast in, whereas other shoes out there are kind of falling more into that comfortable, cruisy daily trainer zone where you can run a little bit faster, but not super fast. It does feel like you're losing out compared to a super shoe. These two shoes, the Zone and the Feidian Challenger 5, offer that good level of performance. And that's because both of them use a full PEBA midsole, the Zone with a nylon plate, which is a little bit more flexible, so you do feel like you're doing a little bit more of the work. I think this is personally a faster shoe. It's snappier, it's more aggressive, a little bit more kind of punchy off the toe, whereas the Challenger 5 is a little bit more mellow, a little bit more comfortable, which definitely feels better for warm up and cool downs and daily training paces and long runs and everything else like that. But for those faster sessions, I'm going to be leaning more towards the Zone than the Challenger. When it comes to price point though, this is literally half the price of the Zone. That makes it a very easy choice between the two of them, and also comparing the uppers, with the Zone being a little bit harsh, missing some padding where it's probably needed, and just blistering my heel a little bit with this counter, which was, yeah, not super pleasant either. So easy choice between the two, but that's probably the closest shoe in my rotation to the Challenger 5 in terms of that speed trainer performance. Then we've got the Deviate Nitro 3, which is actually quite similar as well in terms of the kind of dual density setup, with the top layer of PEBA foam, bottom layer of Nitro EVA, which is still reasonably energetic as far as training foams goes. So softer top layer, firmer bottom layer, both with a decent amount of energy. Carbon plate in both of them, although the Deviate is a little bit more flexible, mainly through the heel area, I guess. So for myself, landing midfoot and forefoot, I didn't really notice a huge difference between the two of them. I think both of these shoes have a good deal of versatility, but the weight on the Challenger 5 is definitely a big advantage over the Deviate. 40-45 grams I do think is noticeable. I can hit high paces in this shoe, but the Deviate, compared to the more accessible speed trainers out there, I would say the Zone is not accessible for $310. Compared to the other speed trainers sitting at around that $250 mark, I think the Deviate does have a better level of versatility. I can hit some faster paces in this and still feel comfortable, but I do think the Challenger is just that little bit better, a little bit lighter, a little bit bouncier, a bit more of a directed toe off as well, a little bit more of a kind of smooth transition, lighter upper, a bit more room through the toe box. The Challenger 5 can do a lot of what the Deviate can do for you. The Boston 13 is a shoe which I am very excited about, having done 2 runs in it now. It is one of my favorite speedier trainers out there, but I do think it is still losing out to the Challenger in terms of the weight, in terms of the stripped down feel in the upper, although they are very similar in terms of that kind of stripped down mesh with a more padded heel counter. It's quite similar there, to be fair. But yeah, when you have a bottom layer of PEBA foam compared to a light strike EVA, you do just get a bit more bounce, a bit more energy, and a little bit of a faster feel. I think a lot of people will prefer the Boston for some of the longer runs with a bit more structure, a bit more density, but the Challenger 5 for me does have that edge in the speed sessions with a bit more rocker, a bit more bounce, and a slightly lighter weight as well. Last one I wanted to mention is the Hoka Mark X2, which I've done 2 runs in now, 1 longer run and a faster tempo run. Really enjoyed this for its forefoot incentive and the bounce that you get out of the PEBA. It is a fun shoe, it does have the protection. I would be happy to use this for some of those marathon workout long runs where you're pushing the pace but you still want to feel comfortable and structured. And I do think it might win out against the Feidian in some of those longer efforts where you do want that protection underfoot. Feidian is still going to be comfortable, but maybe just not quite as stable and structured. But again, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, you're going to be getting a little bit more speed with full PEBA, lighter weight, half the price. It is just a pretty easy pick to go for the Challenger over a lot of these speed trainers right now. I think the way that I see it overall comparing to these Western brands is that if you want a shoe which can do your daily training paces, tempo runs, moving into speed sessions and do it okay, a lot of these Western brands are going to do a pretty damn good job. But if you want a shoe which can do the daily training, move into tempo and threshold, and then hit those top end interval paces and give you some kind of portion of a super shoe feel without feeling like it does all of the work. You do still have to put in a little bit of effort. You put in more work than wearing a Vaporfly or a Deviate Elite, then this is the shoe to do that. It doesn't feel like you're missing out. It doesn't feel like you're kind of, working way harder and you're kind of pulling extra weight with you. It gives you that fun feel, but it can do those other paces as well. So this is like an enhancement of these Western brands by adding in that PEVA foam on the bottom. I do think it is a really high performer. Overall, the Feidian Challenger 5 is a simple, lightweight, bouncy, fun speed trainer that comes in at half the price of the Western brands. It fits nicely, it locks down nicely, it's got the comfort for a variety of runs. I've taken it to 38Ks, had a pretty good time. I'm really pleased with this shoe. This is a perfect example of how Chinese brands are giving us exactly what we want with the bouncy foams, with the good technologies. They're not just drip feeding it to us in tiny little portions, trying to encourage us to buy the high price point models. They're just giving it straight to us, which I think needs to be commended. Great work from Li-Ning. You've got one of the best out there right now.